Hello, this is Joe Polish, president of Piranha Marketing and founder of the Genius Network interview series, and you're about to hear one of my Genius Network interviews, and I just want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this, and I hope you find it very useful. If you want to find out more information about some of the interviews and resources that can help you in your business, you can go to www.joepolish.com. And we have a Joe Polish Recommends section with all kinds of resources and vendors and services and products that we recommend that can help you in your business. And also for more useful interviews and a whole list of other people that I've interviewed, you can go to www.geniusnetwork.com. Thanks and enjoy the interview. Hello, this is Joe Polish, president of Piranha Marketing and founder of the Genius Network interview series. And I'm sitting here in a home in Lynchburg, Virginia with a great guy, my good friend and NFL pro, Mr. Bill Romanowski. How you doing, Bill?
Doing great, Joe.
Wonderful
to be here.
Yeah, it is. We've had actually a good time. We've been here for a couple of days doing some business brainstorming, and it's just been a good time. I'm going to introduce you. I know you very well. We've had a lot of time over the last few months to actually get to know each other. You recently spoke at one of my Platinum Plus meetings. Absolutely blew my members away. It was the first presentation you had given outside of one that you had done to a crowd of 17,000 people. So, you know, a lot of people don't get an opportunity to hear the intimate side of Bill Romanowski's life, and it's great to be able to pick your brain here. So I'm going to do something just to get everyone that doesn't know who you are, which I would doubt anyone that's watched sports at all would not know who Bill Romanowski is. However, we have a lot of female listeners, and I'd like them to know who you are also. So I'm going to read the inside cover of your book, which is Romo, My Life on the Edge, Living Dreams and Slaying Dragons. And I'm going to ask you some questions about the book and just about your life and philosophy in general. So, here we go. Some players called him a throwback. Some called him mean. Some called him dirty. But they all respected him and would much rather have played with him than against him. Coaches loved Romo for the heart and soul he gave to the game. He was rewarded with 2 Pro Bowl appearances and 4 Super Bowl rings. But it all came at a heavy price. Dozens of concussions that have led to dizzy spells, memory lapses, and questionable choices that undermine his integrity. Would he do it all over again? Romo, the intimidating linebacker, would do it in a heartbeat. Bill Romanowski, however, would do things differently today. Whether it was in high school, at Boston College, or with the NFL, Romo vowed to himself that he would outwork and outhustle everyone else. Practice? Loved it. He'd play like it was a game and attack his teammates as if they were opponents. Game day, he'd work himself into a state of invincibility. If you were a tight end, running back, or quarterback with the wrong uniform, you were marked for elimination. Nutrition? He would consult top nutritionists looking for the best foods, an extraordinary range of supplements, and alternative remedies, anything that would give him an edge. It would lead to a controversial relationship with Balco. Treatment? He would try almost anything that would help with his performance, keep his body healthy, and help it recover from the beatings he took and gave on Sundays. Phetamine, THG, hyperbaric chambers, IVs. He would experiment with substances and methods that the NFL had never heard of, and he became an expert whose teammates and friends would turn to. Endurance, he never missed a game to injury and once played an entire season with a partially torn knee ligament. Intimidation, from trash talk to mind games to nasty hits and breaking fingers, Romo would roam the field seeking confrontation and usually find it. Through it all, through his years with the San Francisco 49ers, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Denver Broncos, and the Oakland Raiders, Romo was driven by something else, the fear of failure, the fear of losing it all. Who knew what a head coach or an owner would be thinking, or what young player was in the wings ready to take his hard-won position? He didn't dare allow someone else to decide his fate. So he did whatever it took to live his dreams and ward off the dragons of self-doubt that pushed him, until his body betrayed him and his mortality was compromised. So, in the book Romo, it says, is a jolting, candid, and inspiring rocket ride into the heart of the NFL and a look at what it costs to be an elite athlete today in a world of impossible expectations. Read it and try not to wince. So, this book is fabulous. When you recently spoke to my Platinum Plus group, which are my very top members in Piranha Marketing, we gave everybody a copy, have heard nothing but glowing praise for the book, tons of great information about goal setting and just success in general. And so that's what I want to talk to you a little bit about today. And is there anything about you that should be said in the very beginning that I didn't mention there by reading that?
Well, Joey, I think I look forward to doing this interview because, you know, a lot of that book glorifies, you know, what I did out on the football field. And, you know, who I am now, you know, is kind of a totally, you know, different situation. You know, I used to wear shoulder pads and a helmet to work. You know, now I take a briefcase.
Right.
I used to knock the crap out of people day in and day out, and it wasn't good enough just to hit them. I wanted to hurt them each and every day, and that's what I did. And the harder I hit people, the meaner I was, the tougher I was, the more smack I talked, the more I dominated, the more I was loved, the more I was cheered. And I got caught up in that. That truly, started to drive me, and it kind of take over. You run out onto a field of 70,000 fans screaming your name. That is the most powerful drug ever. And you know what? If they figure out a way to bottle that up, that is the most powerful supplement ever. And it drove me. There's no question. But in the end, the lessons that I learned and the things that I walk away from, it was one of the greatest rides ever. But now I'm getting ready for a greater ride. And it's a ride of giving back. It's a ride of helping people and connecting with my family and connecting with my kids.
Right. Well, in all the time I've gotten to know you, you're just a very nice guy. When you came in and spoke to my group, and just everyone that has met you, they all saying the same thing. It's like, wow, what a nice guy. And it's not typically the impression that I guess the media wants to portray around people and individuals like you. And you're doing a lot of things to really give back. You have a new nutrition company called Pure Romo Nutrition, and we'll talk a little bit about that. What I want to basically do in the context of this interview is just kind of get out of your head some of the things that you experienced on the football field, how they apply to life, what you've learned, lessons, mistakes, all that good stuff. So, I guess the first question I'll ask you is, what are the qualities that you feel most contributed to your success in football? Because you played 16 seasons, you never missed a game, you've won 4 Super Bowls. You have quite a track record, and I'd like to find out, what do you feel contributed to you being as successful as you were?
For me, it started with a dream, and that dream was to be something special. Growing up, I had a mom and dad that loved me, that provided for me and put a roof over my head. But I didn't have a mom and dad that gave me emotional support. I didn't have a mom that would put her arm around me and say, Billy, what moves you? What drives you? What do you feel? What do you love? How is school? What is going on in your life? And really paying attention to me the way a little boy needs to be paid attention to. And having said that and experiencing that and not getting the emotional support that I needed as a little boy, what did I do? I picked the toughest sport you could possibly play, football, and I picked and was driven to be the best in that sport so I could have 70,000 people cheer for me that could give me that emotional support, or so I say. I felt like that was something I could get from them. So, like I said, it started with a dream and an unrelentless passion to be the best I could possibly be, to get that recognition. I think everybody, wants recognition. And I was driven, to places that, in some ways I can't even, looking back, I can't believe it, what I put myself through. The pain, the trauma, day in and day out in my life. I tell you what, when I finished playing, what a relief not to have to go through that. But what I taught myself from setting goals and, being driven to complete those goals, to accomplish those goals, and bottom line, nothing was ever good enough. It wasn't ever good enough for me. It wasn't good enough for my coaches. And that kind of drive, it was driven by a fear that was so strong every single day in my life. All I could think about was someone's going to take my job. So I kept working harder and harder, and I wouldn't stop at anything.
Yeah, I mean, you played hurt a lot. I guess over 20 concussions, but still never missed a game.
Yeah. If there were 36 hours in a day, I would have trained 30 of them. That's what it was all about. So the things that contributed to my success were, number one, the way I was raised, the amount of fear that I had, and then setting the goals and being driven with a passion that I think was second to none out on a football field. And everything I did revolved around being the best. And the nice thing about it for me was I was able to take this average kid from Vernon, Connecticut, and turn myself into a superstar. And that, to me, is living proof that anybody on this planet, if they want something bad enough and they're willing to pay the price day in and day out, they're willing to pay the price of being alone, because you know what? To be a leader and to be the best is lonely, and it's damn lonely. And there's years upon years of going to events, showing up at parties, and being so tired, so fatigued, so hurt, beat up, that I would sit in a corner and just pray to God nobody would come talk to me, because I didn't have the energy to even speak to people.
Wow.
And I know at times I probably came across as, this guy's kind of he doesn't really give very much of himself. But they never understood what I was going through, and it was hard for me. So it was this constant battle. Well, that all plays into that drive to be the best. And I think what I want people to know, most importantly, whether they read my book or not, is that guy out on the football field, there's another story. And read the pages, listen to this interview, and I think you'll get a little sense to what Bill Romanowski is all about. Romo, the greatest things about Romo, which made him a champion, are still with me. The fear that drove me, that pushed me over the line, are the things that will stay out on that football field.
Right.
And that is the retired part of Romo, the stuff that stays out on that football field. The guy that wanted to hurt people, the guy that wanted to break fingers, poke eyes out, and literally put people in the hospital if he had a chance.
Right.
And that guy will forever be retired. And Romo now is about being the best and giving back. And I got quite a platform with Pure Romo Nutrition.
Yeah, you do, absolutely. I mean, why'd you write the book?
I wrote the book because I was getting all this attention in the news. I was getting all this attention about, who is this guy Romo? Romo, he's crazy. I'd have guys walk up to me who are new teammates, and they would say to me, you know what, my buddies are all asking me, well, what's Romo like? Does he bite off bottles in the locker room, and does he walk around and try to take people's heads off when you're not looking? And does he want to hurt you out on the field? What is he like? I can't wait. Tell me. And I always got kind of a kick out of that. But it just goes to show how powerful the media is and the image that they can portray to someone. And so for me, writing the book is give people an understanding of what I went through day in and day out, and give a sense, let them understand where I'm going with my life now. And my life is now dedicated to giving back to humanity, giving back to this country, giving back to people in ways that I know I can affect them, and that's through great sound nutrition and training. And Pure Romo Nutrition is not only a nutrition company, but it's a lifestyle choice. And then my wife and kids.
Yeah, you have 2 kids.
Yeah,
your wife Julie,
Dalton and Alexandra. My 2 kids are 2 gifts from God. Truly, they make me melt. But, when I was playing football, they were in some ways an afterthought. They were there. I loved them. They meant the world to me. But they were, there was always another game to play. There was always there was another Tony Gonzalez. There was an Emmitt Smith that I had to play against the next week, and I was afraid of getting embarrassed in front of 20 million people watching that game on TV. So my focus was there, and now I got a little different focus. So Dalton and Alexandra, and my wife Julie, just an absolute. She's a bombshell for one. She's one of the smartest, most intense, most loyal human beings I've ever met in my life. And I dedicate not only my book, but the rest of my life to being the best husband I can be and the best father I can be.
That's fabulous. That's fabulous. I mean, your book really is not the type of book that just from looking at the cover one might expect to read. I mean, you go backstage and talk about a lot of things, but you really it really gives an understanding of the drive, everything from the physical intensity. I mean, I remember you mentioning being in a game is like the equivalent of 25 car accidents. I mean, you can just think about that. That's intense, and I mean, you're doing that. I believe you were in 243 executive games. 243
straight games, not counting 28, 29 playoff games, and not counting 16 times 4, so 64 games in the preseason. So you add all that up, and I was never someone that ran away from contact. So 20 to 50 car accidents every weekend is what I went through in a football season. And then in training camp, which was a month long, it was that many car accidents every day in practice.
Absolutely wild. So yeah, I mean, there's certainly the fact that you've gone through it and have documented it all. Not only is it fascinating, but there's this enormous amount of life lessons. And now you do movies. You've been in several movies. You go surfing with your buddy Adam Sandler. So you've had quite a colorful life. And I mean, I feel that you're probably just getting started. I mean, I think that was just stage one. Now you got stage two, which is the whole nutrition thing, which you have really the ability to massively change the world. And you've got a team that you've assembled. You're working with Tommy Gladon, who we both feel is truly one of the smartest minds alive in that field. And it's great.
You're right, Joe. It's like football in some ways was so limiting to me. Football was all about me and feeding my ego and feeding my fear, and I kept driving for it was all about the next game, the next supplement, the next competitor, the next workout. It was relentless, pursuit of basically in some ways an illusion, because I felt the next supplement was going to get me through the next workout, the next game. Was it going to be a sack the next game? Was it going to another Super Bowl? That was going to do it. And it was always chasing something that wasn't there. And I found that it was basically a roadmap for my heart, realizing what drives me as a person, what scares me as a person. And like I said, it was very limiting for me to play the game of football, but there were so many great lessons. But now the platform, to give back to my family and to give back to society. I've been around the best nutritionists, the best doctors, chiropractors, massage therapists, you name it, I've done it all. That there's really nothing I wouldn't try that would help me recover, help me with the pain and the trauma of what I went through. And so I could have a quality of life after, so I could then finish and take all this knowledge from that many years of football and being around all these great experts and really give back. And that really set the stage for Pure Romo Nutrition. And right now I'm assembling a team. I'm not a Super Bowl champion. This is so much beyond a Super Bowl championship team. I'm creating Team Universe at Pure Romo Nutrition, and we're going to deliver supplements that work and that change people's lives. And we're going to give people answers to the toughest questions, to lifestyle questions, to losing weight, to helping with their training, to helping with brain trauma, with memory, and helping with sleep problems. I really wanted to attack quality of life. How many people can I affect? If I just limited myself and said, I want to be a sports supplement company, that to me was limiting. Again, it would have been jumping back into the NFL. I don't want to limit myself to that. I want to change the universe. And by doing what I'm doing, I feel like I'm putting myself in a position to do that. And the excitement that I get giving people a supplement that can potentially change their lives, that does more for me than anything. You just can't believe how excited I get to have people try my supplements. They're world class. They're the Mercedes of the supplement industry, and I get so damn excited about it. I feel like a snake oil salesman.
Well, tonight we're having dinner at a restaurant with a group of our friends, and not only did you have the owner of the restaurant talking about it, but all the waiters and everything. You did this really cool thing, which I'll just have to mention this on this interview because it was pretty neat. For one, we're in Lynchburg, Virginia, which is not a huge town, and of course everyone's noticing you. And we're lugging around with some well-known people here. We got Kendra Todd, people noticing her from being on the Apprentice, and we're in this restaurant, very nice restaurant in Lynchburg, and there's this kid that's sitting in the table behind us, and I don't know how we got on the conversation, but it seems like you were talking to everybody. And he says that he's going to propose to his girlfriend. He's like, "This is such a trip. Here I am with Bill Romanowski right in the table next to me, and I'm getting ready to propose, to my girlfriend." And you said, "Would you like me to deliver the ring?" He's like, "Oh my God, Mr. Romanowski, that would be amazing." And so you get up, you walk into the kitchen like you own the place. You ask them to find a jacket for you, which I'm sure wasn't easy because you're a big guy. And, for a few minutes, they're messing around back there trying to find a platter and everything that would be appropriate to deliver it in. And you come out a few minutes later dressed as a waiter around the corner after his girlfriend had gotten back, because he had said was talking about it while she was at the restroom. And so, she comes back, and then you waltz out and go up to her and, have her pick up the little platter thing. And he grabs the box, opens it up, and gets on his knees and asks this woman to marry him. And she says yes, and she's bawling and crying and everything. And like, you just made that freaking guy's world. It was unbelievable. The whole restaurant was just clapping and applauding. And we luckily had a camera and snapped a couple of pictures. But that's neat. And you have that ability because of the platform of your past and who you are. But you genuinely really enjoyed that. I could see you completely lit up the whole time. That really makes you happy. So
it really does. And experiences like that, where I can make someone happy and give them an experience that will be with them the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And you know what? That gives me a charge like you wouldn't believe. And that's where I feel so blessed that I'm able to do things like that. And I think for so long there were so many days that I could hardly get out of bed, that I was so tired and fatigued and hurt that it was hard for me to talk with people. It was hard for me to go out in public and do things like that. And now to be able to do that with the recognition that I got in the NFL and really turn it into something positive for society, it's in some ways it's absolutely a gift from God.
Right. Well, I'm going to ask you some questions about the past. I'm going to ask you some questions about the present. I'm going to ask you some questions about the future. I'm going to ask you sports questions. I'll ask you business questions, because I think all of that will be interesting to me. It'll be interesting to our listeners. The majority of the people that listen to the Genius Network are entrepreneurs. So in their own way, they're waking up every day and they're going to war sometimes. Other times they're playing a game. Other times they're dealing with adversities, and other times they're dealing with the trappings of success. So you're a great guy to talk about all those things. Of all the great moments you've had in your very long career, which one stands out as your favorite? Do you have a favorite?
Sports moments, Super Bowls.
Super Bowls.
I played in 5 Super Bowls. And I was drafted by the San Francisco 49ers. And my first 2 years, I went to Super Bowls and won with the San Francisco 49ers. And, to be a world champion, to be the best in the world, and know that 70 million people just watched you. They watched you not only win, but they watched me get an interception. They watched me make a play that potentially, ended up, changing the outset of the first game, the first Super Bowl that I played in. I mean, that is one of those experiences that I'll never, ever forget. And the next year, played against the Denver Broncos, and we just completely dominated them. And once again, to be the best in the world. And what it is, it's 50 guys coming together, blood, sweat, and tears, from, how many years did it take to build yourself up to be able to take that field and have that many guys come together from all walks of life. The ghetto in New York to the farms up in Connecticut to, the Midwest and of Nebraska to California. I mean, you name it, all walks of life. And to come together, and have the energy and the drive and the passion to all do what we did is phenomenal. And then, 8 years later, to end up with the Denver Broncos, to do it again back to back with a guy that's pretty special, John Elway, special quarterback. My first 2 years, it was with Joe Montana, and he was truly a gift. And then to do it again with John Elway, and then to finish in Oakland with the Oakland Raiders was a bunch of broken down old guys that nobody wanted, and I knew we were going back to the Super Bowl, and we got to the dance and we didn't dance. So there's so many great experiences that I had, but to think of the Super Bowls and those platforms and what it took to get there, what it took to win, and what it took to lose too, and there are experiences that will, that I'll, hand off and share with people the rest of my life.
Yeah. Well, how about players? I mean, who were some of your favorites? I mean, what did you admire in them?
Well, I just brought up, 2 of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. I think there's another guy, Ronnie Lott, that played defense and was probably one of the greatest leaders the NFL has ever seen. And to be able to play with him and what he exemplified and what he talked about and what he portrayed day in and day out, learned an awful lot from Ronnie Lott. I'll tell you a story. I remember I was in my first training camp in San Francisco, and we had just played the Oakland Raiders in preseason, and I'd been battling the whole game with this guy, Ethan Horton, and there was this one play where he pushed me in the back after the play, and you could see it on film. During the game, it was one of those things where you didn't really know it happened. You're just kind of caught up in the heat of it. Next thing you know, you're back in the huddle ready for the next play. Well, on film that next day, we're watching it, and after that play, Ronnie Lott gets up, goes over to the lights, flicks on the lights, and tells George Seifert, our defensive coordinator, he said, "George, turn off the film projector." And he said, "Romo, if I ever see someone push you in the back and you don't do something about it, I'll personally kick your ass." And here I am shaking in my shoes and in my seat and about shit myself. But, literally, here's the best defensive player that's ever played the game calling me out as a rookie in the National Football League. And that's something that will stick with me, to the day I'm not on this earth. And he had a profound effect on my career. And really, from that day forward, I didn't take shit from anybody out on a football field. And that's no different. And he went on to say, if you let somebody punk you on a football field, it won't be long before they punk you right out of the league. And that's no different from any business. If you're going to let somebody do that to you in business, they will punk you, out on the damn street to where, you might as well be a jellyfish. And, those kind of lessons, those kind of stories are what I tell in my book, Romo, My Life on the Edge. And I think they're stories that people, can take something from and apply it to their life. And Ronnie was one of those guys. So there's three pretty special guys. And there's so many more, truly so many more. But, there's three that really stand out to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, who's your favorite athlete to watch today? Do you have one?
Today? Absolutely. And it's probably somebody that nobody would ever think of. They'd think, football or basketball or something like that. And today, one of my passions is surfing. And there's a surfer by the name of Laird Hamilton who's a buddy of mine. And he rides the biggest waves known to man. And he rides waves to where if you wipe out, you die. And, to see the way he trained, it reminds me of what I went through to get ready for football games and to deal with the trauma. What he puts himself through, the professionalism and the drive he has to be the best, riding the biggest waves in the world, it's inspiring to me. And, he's not only someone that I really love watching, but he's a friend that I love. And Laird is a good friend of mine. And we connected at a Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition party that we were both in.
That had to be agonizing, I'm sure.
We're both in with our wives, and we connected there, and I saw this blonde-haired guy sitting over in the corner, and I went over and talked with him, and we just started talking. And here's a story that he told me that still to this day, I love. And I said, Laird, I like to surf, and I hear all these stories of guys, grabbing rocks, lava rocks, and things like that, and running underwater to build up their lung capacity in case they wipe out on a big wave. And he looked at me with these intense eyes, and he said, Romo, that would be like training for failure. I don't train for failure. And I just love that. And to this day, he's one of my good friends, and I take care of him with nutrition, and I really care about him.
That's great. And yeah, that is absolutely not who I thought you would probably ever say. That's great. Well, we'll make sure that he hears a copy of this interview, because that's awesome. Well, your book, going back to your book, it's full of overcoming obstacles and challenges, and how much of this came from confidence in yourself versus how much came from fear, which you talk a lot about in the book about fear.
Yeah. For me, growing up the way I grew up, I didn't have someone telling me that you are so great, you are so wonderful, and you make my life so wonderful, and you bring so much joy to it. And there are things you talk to kids about, that get them to open up, to get them to believe in themselves, and to get them to have the confidence, to do anything they want. Well, I got some of that because I've been able to accomplish so much, but there's so much I didn't get. And at the end of the day, I don't think I ever felt I was good enough. And so the drive to be the best, was almost an obsession. And a lot of people probably would call it an obsession to be the best. From everything I did, You know, I remember when I started setting goals, I would go to pizza restaurants with buddies in high school. They would order soda with their pizza. I would order a glass of milk. I remember when other kids were partying in high school, I would go to parties and hang out for a little bit, and I would kind of sneak out the back door and, get in my old truck and go back home, and I'd lay in my bed at night and just throw the football in the air and dream about, making it to the NFL, making it and doing it something special.
Yeah, you do write a lot about that, and that's very interesting too. Because for one, I mean, it shows your dedication. Secondly, it also does show parts of the ego where showing up to the party, you want to make the appearance, so you're not viewed as some sort of total geek and outcast. And at the same time, you knew that in order to give yourself an edge, there were certain sacrifices that you absolutely would make, which I think has everything to do with why you've had just tons of success in sports. I mean, you're truly one of the top, most successful athletes in the world in your game.
Fear of failure was so strong every single day that nothing on this planet would have stopped me from being the best. Nothing. And you know what? Nothing is going to stop Pure Romo Nutrition from being one of the best supplement companies in the world.
Okay, well, speaking of Pure Romo Nutrition, I mean, you're now in the business field. And so do you see similarities between playing the game of football and, playing the game of business?
Well, I think, one, it starts with a dream. It starts with passion. And, I look at those things, and I've always heard people say stuff like, if you love what you do, you never have to work a day in your life. And you know what? I've never had to work a day in my life because I love what I do. And I think when I finished in the NFL, I did a bunch of things. I've been in movies. So I was in The Longest Yard. I was in Benchwarmers. I was in a movie called Shooting Gallery, and I experienced what that was about. And you know what? I enjoyed those experiences. It was awesome. But did it give me, that feeling? And was I going after something, this thing in my head, that I just had to do this, that this is what I was put on the planet to do? And I can't say that about doing movies. And I wrote a book, and Romo, My Life on the Edge, and I give people this maniac linebacker, this killing machine out on the field. I give them a sense of who I'm really like down deep, in my heart and in my soul. And could I say after I finish writing the book that, what, I can't wait to write another one, and that was the best experience of my life, and this is something that I want to do for the rest of my life? No, I can't say that. But it was a great experience, and then I've been involved in real estate developing, and I have a big project north of Denver. And can I say that what, I want to do this the rest of my life. I'm going to change the way housing and developing is done, and delivering water to the northern range in northern Colorado. No, I know I could make an impact there, and I could make a big splash in a big way. But you know what? There's nothing, when I look back on it, there's nothing that gets me as excited and as passionate and I'm as driven about is nutrition and helping change people's lives. And Pure Romo Nutrition gives me that platform. And it's been 3 years since I got finished playing football to figure that out. And I was dabbling with all four of these things, juggling these. And football was that passion for 27 years, starting at the age of 10 and finishing at 37. And the rest of my life now is going to be delivering world-class supplements and changing people's lives, and one supplement at a time. And I believe people's lives are worth what I'm going to be doing. And I think they'll be as excited as I am to deliver it to them. They'll be that excited to take what I'm delivering.
That's you mentioned passion, and you mentioned that several times. I mean, how important is how important do you think passion is in creating success?
I tell you what, I think if people in this world, in our society, in the U.S., did what they were passionate about, the issues of things like depression, things like, it kind of steers me back to things that nutrition can help. I think it could have a profound effect on the way people live their lives, and the productivity in this country, I think, could be elevated. It already is at a very top level, and they talk about living the American dream and being able to do what you want and be an entrepreneur and be a businessman, and the world, it's open to you. You can do whatever you want. But I think if more people could do that, who would do what they were passionate about, this would be a better world.
Yeah, I agree totally. Well, you are truly an expert in getting in peak physical condition, and I mean, even in your book, you talked about how you've taken more than 250,000 supplements, and with all of you mentioned you would do almost anything to give you an edge, and so it's kind of funny how the media tries to twist it and take one little tiny part of your whole career, which is the Balco thing, and try to spin that into this guy, cheated or whatever, and how they try to do that. What most people don't realize is that the enormous amount of knowledge you have on healthy ways to treat your body, especially, you didn't learn all that you know about nutrition, and I mean, I've had a lot of conversations with you and Tom Inclin on, and I mean, you know your stuff. I mean, you know more than probably 99% of every doctor on the planet when it comes to nutrition, just because you had to. I mean, this wasn't just let's do it because I want to look better and have a great body. You did it because your body, you'd be destroyed. You would never have been able to maintain the career you did if you didn't know a lot about nutrition. So I think you're a perfect person to ask what advice would you have for someone wanting to start becoming healthier and more fit, because you've been on all spectrums.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a great question, Joe, and I think I would start by defining what it is you want to accomplish, and I take that back to when I was little and had a dream of being a football player. It started there. Well, it was defined, and then it was all about being that. Well, for people that want, to get in better shape, to lose weight, you got to first define what it is. There's some people that don't need to lose weight; they just want to firm up. Well, whatever it is, they want to build muscle. Well, first it's defining it, and then it's going to a place like PureRomoNutrition.com for answers. There's a lot of places you can go for answers. I'm one of many. And what you do is you start studying it, and then, like Nike says, you do it. And it may be starting in the morning going for walks. And here, I'm a guy that did the most intense workouts on planet Earth. And you know what? Now, for part of my quality of life regimen for getting in peak condition, sometimes is going for a walk, and going for a walk in nature.
Yeah.
And that's something I do. I still go to the gym religiously. Work out 3 to 4 times a week. So for people, it's defining and doing. And if it's going to the gym, another thing I like to do is I like to ride my bike. For me, I have a lot of trauma to my joints, and I try to do things that won't, give more trauma to my joints. So what I do is I pick things that are joint friendly. But there's so much great information out there that people can tap in through the web, and contacting companies like mine. There's Cytosport, which is a great nutrition company that have many inspirational athletes that are doing things for them. So maybe it's looking at what an athlete does and dumbing it down for what you want to accomplish. Athletes are good in that way because that's what they have to do to make a living, and the normal people don't have to do that to make a living. They just, I say, have to do it for a better quality of life, for more energy, for a better looking body, for better health. And I think it's going to be for people our age, Joe, we're going to be living into our hundreds, into the 120s. I think that's going to be very common. Well, your body has a memory. How you take care of it now is what it will give back to you at the end, when life is ticking down. So I could go on with that question. It's a great question, and people can log on to pureromonutrition.com for more answers, or they can read my book. And
your book covers a lot about nutrition and fitness and working out in general. I mean, it's a great resource. Well, speaking of, I typically don't plug in other interviews that I've done. However, Tom Incledon's a good friend of ours, and we're with him this weekend. And I just interviewed Tom, all on fitness and health. And Tom, you've been working with, we both know he's just a great resource. And basically anyone that wants to further information on this and hear directly from someone that you absolutely go to and take advice from, and we both do, he's a great guy.
Absolutely, he is. He's one of the best, and it's one of the reasons why I made him my partner with Pure Romo Nutrition. Is I believe people walking into a GNC or a Vitamin Cottage or Vitamin World, it's very intimidating. You walk into these stores, and I know an awful lot about nutrition, but it can be overwhelming for people, and I think it's intimidating. Well, I want to take that intimidation factor out of walking into one of those stores, and that's what Tom and I are doing with Pure Romo Nutrition, and I think it's a perfect platform because I have so much practical knowledge on great things you can take for quality of life, from enhancing focus and memory, from with Neuropath, from helping your sleep, and I have so many quality of life issues that Pure Romo Nutrition that we can help and give back to society. That that's a gift in itself, and to be connected with a guy like Tom Incledon, to hear this guy talk, he truly is the smartest guy on planet Earth when it comes to supplementation, and he's remarkable. And every chance I get to spend with him and just hear him talk, I'm like E.F. Hutton. I just like to listen, and I enjoy it. And as you know, he's one of your good buddies too. We're pretty blessed to have him in our life.
Yeah, no, he's a great guy, and he really cares. He's one of these people that would never sacrifice, companies have offered to pay him money to write, biased reports about stuff that just really doesn't, is not up to par. And he is, he's got one of the top reputations in the world in that field, and truly would never give what he felt to be not the best advice humanly possible for other people. He's not only got a ton of professional athletes, he's got a lot of normal people and people that are, dying of cancer that go to him for help and assistance. So absolutely. Bill Phillips. Our friend Bill Phillips at EAS. You did a ton of stuff with Bill, and you write about it in your book. I actually had spoken to Bill prior to me interviewing you, and just said, Romo pretty well. I mean, what would you talk to him about? And he said, I wanted to kind of just say what Bill had talked to me about. He mentioned that you were one of the most intense and most focused athletes he'd ever seen on the field. But he also viewed you as one of the kindest, most sincere, most generous, and gentle people that he's ever met off the field. And he's worked with a lot of athletes. He shared a story with me, and I'd like to ask you about it, about how you would come over to his home and visit and bring your guitar, and you would play while your wife Julie would sing, and that he also told me that your wife calls you Billy and not Romo. So I figure for the sake of this interview, which Bill, of course, is going to listen to, tell the listeners about that.
Well, there's one thing Bill got to do is he got to see a side of me that a lot of people don't get to see, and especially when I was playing. And it was one of those things where I developed a relationship when EAS was on the rise, and I really believe that Bill did such a great job giving to the Broncos and helping us with the nutrition to help fuel the success we had in Denver, winning 2 Super Bowls. And for me, it was always about giving back. And there's a lot of special, great stories and special things that happened, in that relationship. But one of the things I was able to do was to spend some time with Bill Phillips, and he's a very interesting guy. And to intimately sit down and talk with him and see the depth that he has. It was neat, because I'd bring my guitar over, and my wife would absolutely just knock your socks off with her voice. It's a good thing, because I'm not very good on the guitar.
I was going to ask you about that. So you say you're a good guitar player. So, well, if I guess you could always fall back on that and do lounge acts or something.
I'd be a starving man if that was the case. But getting to know Bill the way I did, and to see the way he gives back, and to be able to connect with him, my wife and I really enjoyed that experience and that ride, with the AS, and helping, giving back with all the things that he did with Make-A-Wish. Truly, a blessed guy, and I feel blessed to have known him.
Yeah, and one heck of a businessman. I mean, he's just such, and I'm a marketer. I mean, my field of focus is marketing. I love marketing. I would do it, even if I didn't get paid for it, because it's just so darn interesting to me. And it's one of those things where I like people that have great stuff and just help getting the message out there. I mean, heck, this interview is a byproduct of me just wanting to take what I think is really neat and put it out to the world, because I think that's what makes the world go around for me. And Bill, I interviewed him too. He spoke at one of my boot camps recently. You're speaking at my boot camp this year in October, so I should have said that earlier on. Anyone that would like to come see Bill live, come to my boot camp this year. There's even a video of me and you, and people can go to joepolish.com and watch the video of me and you where I'm doing a promotion with you for having people come and see you at the boot camp. One thing I do want to mention, because there's one other thing that I talked to Bill about, and it was about how did you go so strong on the field and then turn that switch and not be so intense at home, because you talk about your wife, you talk about your children, and I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about kids in general. And I know a lot of people in business have a very hard time finding that balance. And now that you're in the business world and with your sports career, I mean, what would you say to people out there about shutting it off, or when you need to be on, really being on?
Well, there's no question. There's one thing you couldn't do. I didn't wear my shoulder pads and helmet home, and by the time I got home, I had left everything I had out on the football field. So that part of it was pretty easy, but I'm a pretty mild-mannered guy, off the field, and that's kind of my nature. And it took an awful lot for me to go to that place where I wanted to be violent and I wanted to hurt people. That started on Mondays, and it was a gradual build-up to where by the time I took the field on Sunday, I would not only want to attack the team, I'd want to attack the coaches, the trainers, anybody on the sideline. I wanted to hurt. I hated them with as much passion, as I had for the game of football. And that's what it took, because football is not this friendly sport where you put a flag on you and you run around. There are some guys that do that. But I wanted to kick the shit out of people. I wanted to hurt people in a violent way. And that's what the game was about. It's the closest thing to modern day gladiators. I had guys on the other, 350-pound guys, that wanted to hurt me on the other side of the ball. And I tried to hit them harder than they could even, before they could even get out of their stance. That's what it was about. And like I said, that started on Sunday, or started on Monday, leading up to a game. So it was something I learned how to do. And
could you flip it on and off?
Could I flip it on and off? I flipped it on and off for a lot of years. And, for me now, there's a lot of meditation. There's, bringing peace, kindness, love, and joy into my life, really exploring spirituality on such a deeper level that, I don't know if I could flip it on the way I used to flip it on a football field. I know I couldn't do it, time and time again anymore.
Right.
I'm so far beyond that, my growth as a person. But what I say to people that have that drive and that passion, and it's what fuels them, well, I would say to them, there's nothing better and can bring even more success to them than balance. And I had to learn the hard way. And with things that happened with Balco, with spitting in people's faces, with breaking bones out in the football field of opponents, those are the kind of things that I did. And I took it to extremes because of the amount of fear that was going on, because of how much I wanted to be the best. Because I grew up watching guys like Jack Lambert, Jack Ham, and these great linebackers and Dick Butkus. And it was for them, they got all this publicity for being the meanest, SOB ever. And now the game has gotten to a point where, it's they want you to be like that, but they don't want you to take it to the lengths that I took it,
right,
and get publicity for it. And so what I would say is for people is try to bring balance and really give as much time as you can to your wife and kids.
No, you really, and it's important for you to stay calm. I mean, you do a lot of things. Heck, we've even done yoga together. I mean, you do a lot of things that people would probably not in a million years think of this big, mean football player, doing, and it's really important to you. Well, speaking of kids, I mean, would you let your son play professional football?
Absolutely. And you know what? It's one of those things where it's almost like he's destined to do it. It's like I see so much of me in him. He's 12 right now, and he's played lacrosse this year for the first time. And in our town, we don't have like a football team, a midget football team, Pop Warner. We don't have that, so he's got to wait till high school. But he's able to put, shoulder pads and a helmet on and play lacrosse. And he came up to me one day after one of his games, and he said, "Dad," he said, "sometimes I just want to hurt the guy, across from me." And, I chuckled, inside when I heard that, because, he's starting to learn about competing and that intensity, that drive. And it's something, that I think boys, that men, that have to go out and get the food for their family, they start to learn that.
Right.
And it's interesting. So yes, I would let him do it if that's what he was passionate about. But along the way, I'm gonna teach him there are right ways and there are wrong ways, and I'll let him know. Dalton, he hasn't read my book yet, and he's an avid reader. And there'll be a time when I'll say, you know what, the time's right. You can read my book, and and I'll also be there to teach him, the right things and the wrong things, out on a football field.
Yeah, no, that's great. Do you think kids learn valuable lessons from playing sports? I mean, what advice would you have for people wanting to follow in your footsteps?
I think kids, what you learn, a lot of people want to say football or sports build character. For me, I think it reveals character. And sports aren't for everybody. But I tell you what, when there's competition and it's on the line, you get to see what you got. Because when you put on a pair of shoulder pads and a helmet, and your coach is telling you to go over there and smack that guy as hard as you can, you see who's a little soft, and doesn't have that side to them that wants to smack somebody as hard as they can. You start to reveal, work ethic.
Right.
As a guy willing to push himself. You see things like, what it's like to be on a team. So it reveals character in some way, but then there's so many things that you get from sports that are great, and it's done wonders for me. If I didn't have it, who knows, what would happen with my life. So, I encourage it, in so many ways, and just try to teach kids that there's nothing that can replace hard work. That's what I just try to say is, be passionate about what you do, work hard, be a good teammate, and be the best you can be.
Great. Well, any regrets from your career?
Well, I think we talked about some of the regrets and things that maybe I would do differently. But I'm going to share something with you, Joe, here that with my growth as a human being and my journey, I didn't have very strict parents growing up, so it always seemed like there was things I could get away with. It's like I just never got caught at something, and never got caught at going down to the 7-Eleven store and stealing a pack of bubble gum, and never letting it, no one really ever knew, or drinking a couple beers when I was in 8th grade and 9th grade before I got dedicated to playing football. Never got caught doing something like that. Never got caught stealing my dad's truck when I was 14 and driving it and running it off the road and screwing it up, but then wheeling it all the way back to the house and running it into a tree in the backyard. I always figured out a way to get away with something, and I realized that carried on in my life. And when it comes to football, I was willing to do whatever I could to be the best I could be. But in football, there was drug testing. And I was always trying to beat the system and take things that they couldn't test. I could always work out, rationalize in my head that, this isn't on the list. And I can get away with that this way because they can't test for that. Okay? But there's right and there's wrong. And because I was always able to figure out a way to get away with something, I believe it took not just out of my self-esteem and out of my integrity. And one of the greatest gifts I think I ever received was, the whole thing that came out about Balco, because I finally got caught doing something that doesn't belong in the NFL, doesn't belong in football and sports, and that's cheating. And if there's one thing I take away, it's like driving a stake in my heart, because I worked harder than any human being on planet Earth, and I wanted to be the best. And to be embarrassed like I was in front of the world, to have people come up to me and say, do you really take steroids? Have my little boy, when he's 10 years old, say, Daddy, do you do drugs? That is one of the toughest things I've ever had to deal with. And you know what? From that day forward, I knew there is right and there's wrong. And I know that integrity, there's nothing more important to me, and the people that I'm around, is integrity and honesty, and in everything I do the rest of my life, I know that experience, has changed me in a good way. And there is a right way to do things, and that's the way Bill Romanowski, that's the way Romo, that's the way Pure Romo Nutrition will be. That is who and what I'm about. And I had to learn the hard way.
Yeah, well, no, thank you for sharing that. And you do a great job of giving the proper context, not the media context, of that situation and those choices, not only for yourself, but just for the, other players and the whole process in general. And it's I got an amazing insight from reading your book and from just hanging out with you. And I mean, it's really clear that everything that I've ever seen you do, the way you treat other people, it's all about kindness. It's all about compassion. It's always about wanting to create value for other people. And I think, in spite of the adversity, I think it probably has made you just a much, much better person. And that's great. We've talked a lot about your passion for nutrition, and you mentioned Pure Romo Nutrition. What I do want to do is kind of have you kind of end the interview with just giving a description of what plans do you have for your next chapter in life. Where are we going to see Romo in the next few years, and what's going to happen, and then any final last words. And
what plans I have is to be the best husband on planet Earth, the best father, the best business partner, the best businessman, and create a world-class supplement company. And watch out, because Pure Romo Nutrition is going to change the world.
You're going to come to my boot camp this year and speak, which is going to be awesome, because when you spoke at my Platinum group, absolutely blew the audience away. I mean, it was really funny. It's not only were there a lot of guys that were like, oh my God, I can't believe that Bill Romanowski's there, because I didn't tell anyone. I mean, it was a total surprise for them. I like doing that to my clients. I always like having surprises, good surprises. Is how many women came up and said, oh my God, that guy is amazing. He's just the nicest person. And people can come and meet you in person. You're very friendly. You don't have any ego to where you're not approachable. I mean, you like helping people. You like talking to people. That's very clear. For people that may not have an opportunity to come and meet you in person, how do they find out about you? Give some contact information about not only your book, but Pure Romo Nutrition.
Yeah, they can go to pureromonutrition.com, and there's an Ask Romo section where they can ask questions if there's something that they haven't read in the book, or they didn't find out on the website that they want to know about me. That they can ask me, and they're going to get an honest answer. And I hope they're ready for the truth, because they're going to get the truth. And what did Jack Nicholson say? In the movie,
you can't handle the truth.
You can't handle the truth. Well, that's what you're going to get from me. And you're going to get a connection from me, because that's what I crave, and I enjoy connecting with people on all levels. And so I look forward to doing the boot camp with you, Joe. It's going to be a lot of fun. Getting to meet people that you have inspired. I look forward to helping in that process, and my book will be available there, and people will be able to talk with me, and I'll give autographs, and I just look forward to the experience. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, we've become good friends, and I mean, I would like to invite you back for another interview in the future, just so people can catch up. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of people that would love to just keep abreast of what's going on with Bill Romanowski, and I could literally talk to you for about a week on just different topics and stuff. So what I'd like to do, thank you for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it. I know you don't do much of this type of stuff, so it's very nice of you to do that. The book, Romo, My Life on the Edge, Living Dreams and Slaying Dragons, absolutely must read. Not only is it entertaining, but there's an enormous amount of life lessons in there. You can get this book pretty much in any bookstore. It is a bestseller, and it's a very good book. So anything else, Bill?
Yeah, Joe. Who are you?
I am Pure Romo.
Attaboy!
And just so the listeners know, he had the entire restaurant repeating this tonight. All the people that were with, my thinking is you're probably going to create some like a superhero figure called Pure Romo or something or other. But you're really into this stuff, which is good, because that's what'll make it be what it is you want it to be. So
it's like Kendra. Every time she says it, I get such a kick out of it. She does it better than I can even do it.
Total crack up. Yeah, Kendra's great. So, to all my listeners, let me know what you thought of this interview. PureRomoNutrition.com. Also, check out the video of me and Bill on JoePolish.com, and come to this year's boot camp. Meet this guy in person. Get his book. Read it. And I know that it will help you tremendously, not only in your business, but also in your life, which is exactly the reason why I do the Genius Network, so I can bring this type of knowledge and wisdom to all of you. So thank you again, Bill.
Thank you, Joe. My pleasure.
And all my listeners have an absolutely wonderful day. Eat your competition alive. Take care. Hello, this is Joe Polish. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this interview. I hope you found it very useful. Please give me your feedback on all of the interviews that you listen to. I'd love to hear your feedback so we can always deliver a great program for you. Our website is www.joepolish.com, and we also have a Joe Polish Recommends section, so you can take a lot of the ideas and concepts that you hear on my Genius Network interview series and apply them to your business and find vendors and resources. You can go to joepolish.com to find that information and click on the Joe Polish Recommends section. And also, if you would like to find out about more interviews and invest in more useful Genius Network series interviews, go to www.geniusnetwork.com. Thanks, and eat your competition alive.